The service provides an opportunity to voice any of your texts, including articles, reports, separate chapters or entire book in a sequence, no more than 30,000 characters at a time. The name of the MP3 file is formed from the first 20 characters of the text. Save the generated MP3 file to your device for storing and future use offline. Please select language and voice. Adjustable speed, pitch and pauses between sentences and paragraphs. Replace this text with your. Lena had barely stepped back from the table when the wealthy woman seized her moment to continue performing for her friends. She lifted the menu between two fingers as though it were something fragile or beneath her and gave an exaggerated sigh. Honestly, she said in German, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Wie schwer kann es sein? Try and fake desserts to serve Iron. How hard can it be to serve 3 simple desserts?" Her friends laughed again, some politely, others eagerly feeding off her smugness. They were dressed in sleek designer outfits, each of them dripping with the kind of subtle, ruthless wealth that didn't need to announce itself but absolutely loved to. The woman's bracelets clinked each time she gestured, her diamond ring flashing like a tiny spotlight as she tapped the menu. She jabbed her finger toward an item she had already ordered, then mispronounced the Italian terms with a dramatic flourish. "What is this nonsense?" she said, still in German. "These fancy names are ridiculous." She probably can't pronounce them either. Lena remained still, keeping her professional smile in place. Internally, she felt the sting sharper, not because of the insult to her ability but because of the casual cruelty behind it. The woman wasn't upset about the menu. She wasn't even upset about service. She simply enjoyed belittling people she thought were beneath her. One of the friends leaned closer to the woman and whispered, "Maybe she doesn't understand anything we're saying." This time, they didn't even bother lowering their voices. Another chimed in, "Not a 1/4 really knecht. She barely speaks English properly," waving a dismissive hand in Lena's direction. Lena's jaw tightened for just a second, so quick it was nearly invisible. But everything else about her stayed composed, her posture straight, her hands relaxed, her voice steady as she quietly checked the table's water glasses, appearing unfazed. "Unglaublich," the wealthy woman scoffed again, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Der Service hier ist schrecklich." Unbelievable. "The service here is terribly." Her tone sharpened like she wanted the entire restaurant to agree with her. A few nearby diners turned their heads, unsure whether to sympathize or cringe. The woman's friends nodded as if they were her personal cheering squad, their laughter hollow and forced, and Lena stood there, letting the scene unfold, listening, observing, waiting. The calm inside her wasn't weakness, it was choice. She knew what she would say when the moment arrived. She knew exactly how to shut this down with grace sharper than any insult. She just needed to choose the perfect moment. "If you'd like, I can expand scene 3 next." The morning rush had only just begun, but the little corner diner was already alive with clinking dishes, sizzling pans, and the low hum of conversations. Mia darted between tables with practiced ease, balancing 3 plates on one arm and a coffee pot in the other. Her uniform was a bit faded, her apron frayed at the edges, but she carried herself with the quiet determination of someone who had learned to make the best of what little she had. Every customer got the same warm smile, no matter how tired she felt. As she dropped off a stack of pancakes at table 4, the bell above the door chimed softly. Mia glanced over and saw an elegantly dressed older woman step inside. The woman moved cautiously, one hand gripping a polished wooden cane while the other adjusted a small purse hanging over her arm. Her silver hair was neatly pinned back, but her eyes held a subtle uncertainty, like she was bracing herself for the world to misunderstand her. Mia immediately noticed the hearing aids tucked behind the woman's ears and the way she scanned the room, searching faces but not listening for voices. Mia remembered that look her grandmother used to wear it when she struggled to communicate with strangers. Without hesitation, Mia set down the coffee pot and approached the woman with slow, deliberate steps. The woman stiffened slightly, expecting another awkward encounter. But instead of speaking, Mia raised her hands and signed gently, "Good morning." "Welcome." "Do you need help finding a seat?" The woman froze, her eyes widening in disbelief. For a heartbeat she simply stared, as though she wasn't sure she had seen correctly. Then her expression melted into a mixture of shock and gratitude. Her hands fluttered up, responding in sign. You know sign language? Mia nodded with a soft smile. Yes, I'd be happy to assist you. The woman let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Her shoulders relaxed, her posture straightened, and for the first time since stepping through the door, she looked genuinely comfortable. A small but heartfelt smile spread across her fascia, one that carried the quiet relief of being seen, heard, and understood in a world that often forgot how. Mia gently gestured toward an open booth. Come with me. I'll make sure you're comfortable. And so, while the busy diner buzzed around them, a simple act of kindness unfolded, the one that no one yet realized would change Mia's life forever. Across the diner, the man in the tailored charcoal suit lowered his coffee cup, his attention snagged by the silent conversation happening near the entrance. He had seen countless people approach his mother with impatience, exaggerated gestures, or condescending tones, but never like this. The waitress, young and clearly exhausted from the morning rush, moved with a gentle confidence as she signed fluently to his mother. Her hands were steady, expressive, natural, not hesitating, not guessing. She knew what she was doing. He leaned back slightly, observing without trying to appear obvious. His mother rarely smiled at strangers, yet now, she was touching the waitress's arm, signing quickly. Her expressions animated in a way he hadn't seen in a long time. Usually, outings were stressful for her. She felt shut out, he felt guilty, and most people, they simply didn't care enough to try. But this waitress, a broken bar, she didn't treat his mother like a burden. She knelt down so they were eye level. She slowed her signing to match the woman's pace. She laughed softly at something his mother signed, a warm, genuine sound that seemed to brighten the space around them. The man's brows lifted in quiet amazement. This wasn't polite customer service. This was compassion. He studied the waitress more closely now, with the quick but careful way she guided his mother to the booth, how she placed a hand on the table to steady her rather than grabbing her arm, how she signed each menu item with practiced ease. She wasn't performing for praise. She wasn't aware anyone was watching. She simply cared. Curiosity routed him to his seat. His mother had insisted on coming to this old diner despite his suggestion to eat somewhere safer or easier. He'd expected the usual discomfort. Instead, he was witnessing something tender, unexpected, and strangely touching. The waitress scribbled the order on her notepad, still signing as she spoke softly. His mother nodded eagerly, her whole face lighting up, a sight that stirred something in him, something that had been dormant for years. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't thinking like a billionaire used to efficiency and polished service. He wasn't evaluating, he wasn't judging, he was simply a broken bar moved. And he knew, as he watched the waitress disappear behind the counter, that this was no ordinary moment, and she was no ordinary waitress. Mia returned to the booth with two menus tucked under her arm. Though she already knew she wouldn't need them, the elderly woman who had introduced herself inside as Ivana sat comfortably now, her cane resting beside her. She looked around the diner with new ease, no longer tense or bracing herself for misunderstanding. Mia signed slowly and clearly, making sure Evelyn could catch every gesture. Would you like me to explain the menu? Some items have changed recently. Evelyn chuckled, covering her mouth with her hand. Please. These places always think older people want mushy food. Mia laughed silently, the kind of laugh that lit her eyes. I promise I won't make assumptions. She signed each dish patiently. A French toast, soft omelets, oatmeal with honey, fruit bowls, tea options, pausing between items so Evelyn could respond comfortably. At one point, Evelyn raised her brows dramatically and signed, no spicy food, my son will worry. Mia smiled. Then I'll make sure your order is gentle on the stomach. Evelyn reached out suddenly and took Mia's hands in her own. Her fingers were cool and delicate, but her grip surprisingly firm. Her eyes softened with a kind of appreciation that went far deeper than politeness. Most people don't slow down for me. She signed. They talk loud or wave their hands like I'm a child. You're broken bar different. Mia shook her head modestly. My grandmother was deaf. She signed back. I learned to communicate with her. She hated being treated as if she couldn't think for herself. The mention of her grandmother brought a shimmer of fondness to Mia's face. Evelyn recognized it instantly. Love, lust, and gratitude all entwined. She must have been proud of you. Evelyn signed gently. Mia swallowed, her smile turning a bit wistful. I hope so. I still use signs so I don't forget her. Something softened inside Evelyn, a warmth blooming behind her eyes. She wasn't used to strangers who understood not just language, but the heart behind it. She squeezed Mia's hands and released them slowly. Mia straightened, smoothing her apron. I'll bring your tea first. Mild ginger. It'll be easy to drink. Evelyn nodded gratefully, genuinely excited for the meal. As Mia walked away, other customers barely noticed what had just happened, but for Evelyn, it wasn't the simple ordering of breakfast. It was the rare feeling of being seen, respected, and communicated with, something she had craved for years. And for Mia, though she didn't know it yet, this small kindness would ripple far beyond the walls of the little diner. Mia stepped behind the counter to prepare the tea, unaware that someone was approaching her from behind. She tapped the metal kettle gently with her knuckly and old habit to judge the temperature and pulled the mug from the shelf. As she poured the steaming water over the ginger slices, she sensed the presence and turned. The man in the sharp charcoal suit stood there, closer than she expected. Up close, he looked even more polished. Clean-cut hair, expensive watch, posture straight as if trained, but his expression was softer now, touched by something she hadn't seen when he first walked in. Excuse me, he said quietly, are you the one helping my mother? Mia blinked, surprised. She wiped her hands on her apron. Oh, and yes, she's wonderful to talk to. He studied her carefully, as though trying to understand something about her. Your broken bar sign, he said, almost like an accusation, though his tone carried admiration more than suspicion. Yes, Mia replied, calm and simple. My grandmother was deaf. I learned to communicate with her. The man's brows tightened, not in disapproval, but in a kind of emotional recoil. A memory, perhaps, something tender. Most people don't take the time, he murmured, his voice dropping. They gesture wildly, get frustrated, a broken bar or worse. Ignore her entirely. Mia nodded knowingly. I've seen that. It's why I don't mind slowing down. He let out a breath, the kind someone released when they'd been holding tension for too long. I'm Daniel, he finally offered, Evelyn's son. Mia smiled politely. I'm Mia. A broken bar, he repeated, almost testing the sound of the name, as though it felt unexpectedly fitting. He glanced over her shoulder toward the booth, where Evelyn watched them from afar with a proud little smirk, pretending to read the menu but actually studying her son's reactions. When Daniel turned back to Mia, there was something gentle in his expression, something hesitant, unusual for a man who clearly wasn't used to feeling unsure of himself. I saw how patient you were with her. She hasn't looked that comfortable in public in years. He paused, choosing his next words carefully. You didn't do it because someone asked you to. You did it because you care. Mia shrugged modestly. Kindness doesn't cost anything. For a moment, Daniel didn't respond. He simply looked at her with an expression that seemed to hold both curiosity and gratitude. Like he wasn't sure which one he felt more strongly. After a beat, he cleared his throat. If there's anything she needs, please see broken bar, let me know. And if you need anything, just ask. Mia nodded. I'll take good care of her. That's all. She picked up the mug of tea and put it back toward Evelyn's booth. Daniel watched her go, his gaze lingering longer than he meant it to, struck by the calm grace in her movements. He had walked into the diner expecting an ordinary breakfast with his mother. When Evelyn finished her meal, she dabbed her lips with a napkin, her eyes sparkling with the quiet happiness Mia hadn't expected from someone who had walked in looking so guarded. Evelyn looked toward the window, then toward her son, then back at Mia, like she was piecing together a decision. Slowly but deliberately, she reached for another napkin. Her fingers trembled slightly with age, but her movements held purpose. She took the pen Daniel kept clapped inside his suit jacket. He handed it to her without question and began to write in neat, deliberate cursive. Daniel watched curiously, leaning slightly over her shoulder. He was used to his mother writing notes when she needed help communicating, but this time, her expression didn't show frustration or effort. It showed delight, pride, mischief. Even when she finished, she folded the napkin once and pressed it into Daniel's hand. Then she gave Mia a small, affectionate smile, nodding toward her son as if telling him, go on, read it. Daniel unfolded the napkin slowly. His eyes moved across the words, and at first, his expression was neutral. Then it softened. Then it changed completely, like something clicked open inside him. The note read, hire her. Good heart, good hands. She speaks with kindness, as something your company could use. Daniel looked from the napkin to Mia, stunned. He wasn't the man easily surprised, but his mother's words carried weight. She rarely encouraged him to trust strangers, especially those she had just met. Yet here she was, insisting he take action. Mia stood there awkwardly, unsure. Is everything okay? She asked quietly. Evelyn reached out and grabbed Mia's hand with both of hers. Her grip was warm, earnest, full of emotion. She sighed, you made me feel human today. Thank you. Mia's breath hitched. She squeezed Evelyn's hand back gently. I'm glad. She sighed with sincerity. You deserve that. Daniel cleared his throat. A broken bar, would you mind giving me your contact information? He asked, trying to sound composed but unable to hide the edge of excitement in his voice. Mia blinked, confused. What for? Just a broken bar, trust me, he said, holding up the napkin as if it explained everything. She hesitated, then scribbled her number on his notepad before returning to her work, thinking it was nothing more than a polite gesture. But a week later, she found a thick envelope slipped under her apartment door. Inside was a formal letter sealed with a gold crest and embossed lettering, a full scholarship to a prestigious hospitality and management program in the city. A guaranteed job offer at one of Daniel's luxury hotels upon graduation, and a personal note, written in graceful handwriting. You deserve a world that recognizes your kindness. My mother insisted, and I agreed. Mia sank to the floor, overcome with disbelief. Back at the penthouse, Evelyn sat in her favorite chair, smiling knowingly as her son poured tea. She signed one simple sentence, her eyes twinkling. Good things happen when people are kind. And Daniel nodded, knowing his mother was right. Mia's simple act of compassion had changed all three of their lives far more than any of them could have predicted.